Welcome back. This is the Chad X Podcast once again, and we have another guest returning, just one this time. We're bringing it down. I know you guys really enjoyed that previous episode, and we may do that again in the future. But for now, we're going back to a nice one-on-one conversation with me, your host Chad, and our special guest. Go ahead and introduce yourself one more time.
Hey guys, I'm back. It's Ferris.
Perfect. We got Ferris, and today we have a very serious topic to discuss, which is the fires ravaging Los Angeles, I guess is the best way to say it, but it's actually hitting a few different communities in Southern California, around the Los Angeles area, in the Los Angeles metro, I guess is the best way to say it. These fires are devastating. So far, the total death toll is a little lower than a lot of other more recent natural disasters have had, notably some of the hurricanes, which have been sort of just tearing apart the southeast. But in particular, this set of events, the wildfires in Los Angeles area, have only claimed 16 bodies. As of the date of recording, 16 bodies sounds crazy to say. There have been 16 people whose lives have been lost. Way too high of a number, but lower than some other natural disasters, thankfully. The interesting thing is, the California governor, Gavin Newsom, released a statement saying he believes this will be the most expensive natural disaster in United States history. As of right now, based on the research I've done and the stats that have been accumulated by economists and other researchers, the total destruction is valued at around $150 billion worth of destruction. Hurricane Helene, which was another recent disaster, one of the most expensive in history, took down about 250 billion. So this fire would need to do about double the amount of property damage it's done so far. Property and other damages some of the locals' utility systems. Some of the pipes aren't working. Some of the roads get a little damaged. The roads are less damaged than houses. Obviously, it's harder to burn asphalt than it is to just burn a house down. But the amount of damage that's been done has been extensive, and it's very likely to end up being the most expensive in history. Part of the reason for that is just that housing, which is what's being most impacted in this area, is people's houses. Housing in the LA area is some of the most expensive in the country. It's not topping New York City or the San Francisco Bay Area, which are two regions with the most expensive housing in the country and some of the most expensive housing on the planet. But it is still relatively high. So the LA County area, especially Los Angeles, especially a region, the Palisades region, which is being hit, that's one of the wealthiest suburbs of the LA metro. There's a whole lot of rich people there. Mel Gibson, his house burned down. Miley Cyrus, her house got damaged again. A lot of really really wealthy people are seeing their properties be completely torched and damaged by all this. And that makes sense as that ties everything together, and it makes it make sense as to why this may go down as the most expensive natural disaster in history, just because of the inflated property values of the houses in that area may cause the total number to just skyrocket way up. It is going to reach eventually some other areas in Los Angeles. It is spreading. It's not under control at all yet, and these fires are probably going to cause a lot of severe damage to other regions. Your thoughts on that at first, Ferris?
Um, First thing I want to say is to all the victims in the fire, it sucks to see them, lose houses and all that. It looks scary, man. I was seeing videos and pictures, and I was like, whoa, this seems like some sort of movie. It was crazy, man. And I didn't know it was ever gonna get this bad. Because I've seen them like I know fires in specifically what Southern California, they get really bad, I've heard. I've never been to Southern California, so I can't really like vouch say I've seen that stuff before. Been to that city, or at least to the cities in that part. But from what I've heard, it's always been bad, and I've seen that for years. How like wildfires get spread, but I never seen it like this close in LA specifically, a big city like that, and how many people lost their houses, and it's like right now it's just a battle with insurances and the battle with like water, trying to get water because they don't have water. So it's just crazy, man. That's just my first thoughts from that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a region that's known for fires, even into antiquity. Historically, even before Europeans arrived in North America, especially in that region, the Native Americans in that region were aware that it's a fire-prone region. A lot of the biomass in the area, so the plant life mostly, is what's called scrub. It's vegetation scrub. It's not trees so much as it is bushes and other things that are very dry and catch fire very easily. Some of the life in that area, the native plant life, is adapted to fires in particular. It's the
Hmm.
nitrogen cycle, which is part one of the cycles of nutrients necessary for sustained growth. The nitrogen cycle is replenished by those fires, and it's a very interesting. Ecologically, there's a lot of interesting things going on, and that's one of the causes of all those fires historically. Part of the reason this fire got out of hand in particular was because the native societies in that region and a lot of the early European societies, I don't want to, say like, oh, the colonizers came in and didn't take care of things. For a long time, they did. The Los Angeles used to have controlled burns. They would burn off some of the scrub land so that if a fire did start, it would be easier to contain as it wouldn't have as much fuel.
Hmm.
The current system is set up so that we don't do controlled burns in that region as much anymore. And because of that,
Hmm.
we get a real buildup, a big accumulation of scrub and other vegetation that is very easy to light on fire. It's very flammable. And also, people's houses in that region are built mostly out of wood or stucco. But wood, especially, and this is a wealthier region, so definitely they're going to have way more wood houses. And wood houses, they light up, they burn up really quickly, and that fire will spread really easily from one to another. And it's really just torch the whole environment, especially with the scrub in between catching fire and just lighting everything up. I mean, it's fires are a natural part of that ecosystem out there. Southern California is it's a fire zone. It's where things catch on fire, specifically in the LA region. But they've really been getting out of hand lately because controlled burns have not been done. They've not been taken care of. And in addition, the way housing is built out there, the types of housing, the single family homes made of wood and stucco, those are extremely flammable. If it was denser brick housing like it is on the East Coast, wouldn't catch on fire as much. Would go down with earthquakes. There's a lot of earthquakes in that region. Those would knock over really quickly. So, construction materials for wealthy people's houses are part of the problem, as well as the lack of controlled burns. Just people don't want fire on their property anymore. They don't want you burning down all the trees and everything nice that they planted, all the grass and manicured lawns that they devoted water resources to during a drought. And so, because of that, we end up with a situation where when a fire does start, if we can't completely prevent them, which it's going to be very hard to completely prevent fires from breaking out in that region, but if one does break out, it's more likely to be a big one that will cause a lot of damage. And this one in particular, causing a lot of damage. 150 billion in damages already, and the fires are not shrinking. If anything, we've yet to crest. We've yet to hit the highest point of damages of intensity of fires. We're probably going to get more. And I think Gavin Newsom may be onto something when he says this is going to be a more costly economic disaster than any of the hurricanes that have hit in recent years, especially when we factor in the fact that none of these people's houses were insured. Most of the insurance policies for fire in this region were taken down recently. They were declined. The insurance company said, we're not going to reinsure these people because we think it is extremely likely a big fire will come through and burn all these houses down. And so, because of that, these rich people are just going to have to either choose to rebuild themselves, sell to other investors just for the land, no house value, or just move on and take the loss. And any of those are viable. That's what I'm saying. Like, we have no idea what's gonna happen as of yet. My biggest concern is what's gonna happen to the housing market in the wake of this in Los Angeles, because it's very unlikely that they're gonna take this as a sign to build more sustainable, more affordable housing. If anything, they're just gonna some rich people are going to come in, buy up all the housing, and build a couple luxury condos on top of it, and only sell to old people. The baby boomers are going to,
Yeah,
they're going to win again, sadly.
sadly. You know, it kind of reminds me of one thing. I'll be honest with you, because I'm from Florida, Chad, as we discussed, and we dealt with that hurricane that happened in October, well, back-to-back hurricanes, and it messed up a lot of houses, and I feel like it's gonna mess up the housing prices, it's gonna cause a housing crisis over there, uh, and like throughout the whole state. The reason why I say that is because of insurance. That's the big question we have over there, just like how LA is gonna have that right now. Because now it's like some of these insurance companies are gonna be feeling like it's too risky, to be in these states. Like, why should we assist these states? Why should we have insurance to cover these people's houses and that for these states? Because they know it's a risk that okay, Los California can have a fire in these people's house. Their point of trying to get insurance from us is that we pay money, and we basically they're hoping to God that we don't ever have to pay it back, you know. But we don't. We just like Florida. Uh, a lot of these insurance are like, okay, specifically recently, like in what happened in Tampa, a lot of people, in the areas that were hit bad were either super poor or the super rich area in Tampa. And these people in super rich, they lost everything, man. They lost their houses, stuff like that, which again, they have money, so they went to a different place. Well, until their house gets fixed back up. But the people that are poor, they got screwed over. So, and of course, like you said, Chad, who are the super rich that are usually in Tampa? What is Florida known for? Yo,
Retirees.
yep. So I
Yeah,
just wanted to, I said to at least say that really quickly, but especially with the insurance companies.
that's a great point to bring up. The Boomers already won once. They kind of won in Florida every time this has happened. Every time it's been decimated. I mean, the average age of the city of New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina increased. So
Oh wow.
every time in history we've seen a natural disaster like this, it's the young people who have to leave, uproot their lives, evacuate. Hurricane Harvey in Houston, the back-to-back hurricanes in Central Florida. It's just you're seeing a lot of decimation of the old infrastructure, and especially with housing already being something that's one, not built enough, two, not built in a way to be affordable to first time buyers or young people in general. You're getting a situation where the housing market's shrinking. We're already in a housing crisis. It takes time to build new houses, even if you want to. Even if you're like everybody's full go. The government's like, we're gonna allow it to happen. Private builders, private contractors are like, yeah, we're gonna start construction as soon as we possibly can. Everybody, the buyers are like, yep, we're gonna put the money in. The insurance companies are like, yes, we'll insure all the new buildings. The permit providers, the government's like, they're approving everything as quickly as they can. It still takes time. And the fact that we're already in a housing crisis, we have a shortage of housing, and we're seeing housing that people were already in be decimated and destroyed, further increasing the competition in state and across the country as a whole. Florida is one of the hottest housing markets in the country, and California is the hottest housing market in the country. I mean, it's impossible to get a home in certain regions of California for less than $1 million. You can't get a starter home
Yeah.
is the $1 million home in those regions. So the fact that we're seeing huge swaths of housing being destroyed, and the fact that it's rich people's housing makes it even worse because they're going to outcompete the middle class people who in theory would be buying housing in the region. The rich people in LA, they're never going to be the ones who lose access to housing. They're just going to go to some middle class neighborhood where a dual income family was maybe bidding to try to buy a house, and then here comes Mel Gibson, and he says, "Oh yeah, actually, I need a place to live, and I have more money than them, so they're gonna sell that house to me." And that's
Yeah.
just how it's gonna break down. And Mel Gibson and his boomer comrades are gonna ruin everything. But some people think that's the goal. Think that's the purpose of this whole thing was to make things worse. I know you in particular have been you're tapped into the conspiracy circles and you've seen some murmurings. You want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, so I wanted to say, like, when I was just like, being nosy on Twitter, I sometimes have been looking, and some people legitimately believe that there might be like somebody that set these fires off. They legitimately think that somebody just went out there and started putting a fire in Los Angeles just for fun. Um, so some people believe it's because it's something biblical, but it's been unique to see how like people react towards it. But to me personally, I personally seen it as like, okay, last couple years for a long time, Los Angeles and specifically SoCal is known for fires, wildfires. It's natural. That's the natural thing that they get, you know. So to me personally, that's how I see it. But I've been seeing a lot of people saying, "Oh, whoever did it is definitely got away with it right now, and is probably smiling like a villain or whatnot." I'm like, what is wrong with y'all? So I don't know. It's been unique. I'll just say that.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen something similar, maybe in a different direction. I've seen a lot of people saying they think the homeless caused this. They think a bunch of homeless people
Wow.
who really, I mean, realistically, let's be honest here. the chances that a homeless person would be allowed to set up camp and just wander aimlessly around one of the wealthiest neighborhoods in America with
Yeah,
no harassment by the police, nobody calling the cops on them, nobody shutting it down, they'd be allowed to just wander in and light fires maliciously and get away with it, I think is extremely unlikely. But I have been seeing theories about that, and the fact that thousands of people are talking like that, they're speaking that way about this, and they're trying to assign blame in that way, makes me think there's a very high chance that we see a new wave of anti-homeless sentiment in California, which is probably the number one most anti-homeless state in the nation. I mean,
oh yeah.
there's some vicious policies directed towards people who don't have a place to live out there. I mean, it's got the
It's so
highest.
sad, man. It's
Yeah,
sad because I seen even Florida too started to become like that too. Like it's very scary with the anti-homeless the sentiment. Like specifically, like you know why, Chad? Sorry for interrupting. I want to say one thing specifically regarding this topic. You know, one thing I see is super evil: anti-homeless architecture.
the
That is the most messed up, most evil thing ever. What I mean by that, it's like when people make like park benches into like a way that homeless people can't sleep,
they put spikes in them,
or
or they'll put
spikes on them.
a bar in
Yeah,
the middle so you can't lay down fully.
mm, exactly. I'm like, they already have a horrible life. Why are you making it worse? These people have probably been through so much in life. I don't know, man. I just think it's so evil. It's so evil to do that, man. So I don't know, man. That's a very interesting point that you did say that though. That's a lot of these conspiracies are saying maybe a homeless guy. Because for me, it's like if somebody quote unquote did it, what was their reason?
And that's what
You
they're
know?
gonna, that's what everybody's looking for. If someone did do it, they're gonna try to find a reason for it, and they're gonna find somebody to blame. That's what a lot of conspiracies break down to. It. It's whether it's true or not. The more important and more interesting part to me, at least, is the sentiments that they're expressing when they gain traction. What is it people are feeling, when they start spreading a conspiracy like this? And in particular, the anti-homeless one to me is like, oh, we're really, as a society, drifting towards attacking that group in particular. Poor people, a lot of marginalized groups are feeling threatened and in danger, but homeless people are the most at risk group to me in America right now. Like the
Yeah.
chances of somebody just coming in and just saying we're going to cause harm to them is insane. I mean, they were the number one target of serial killers, them and prostitutes. They're the number one target of sex trafficking, homeless women. Just a lot of bad stuff already does happen to people in that
Happening,
community.
yeah.
But it's just like, whoa, if the sentiment is shifting so even more extremely against them, but it's pretty bad for them, public sentiment. If
Yeah.
it's getting even further and even more intense, and a lot of people are going to possibly be joining those ranks with these fires, if these fires reach more low income neighborhoods, it could get
Hmm.
really bad for thousands, possibly soon millions of people in this country. There could be a lot of stuff that goes wrong, and there's one group
Yeah.
that's actually to be blamed for this, and that's old people. That's the baby boomers, because they
Yeah.
had the chance when they were younger, before Los Angeles had 3+ million people living there, before Southern California's population did grow out of control. They had a chance to reform their housing policy and also just reform land use policy to allow for more controlled burnings so that this wouldn't have happened and we wouldn't be seeing these sentiments on the rise and this viciousness on the rise. And there wouldn't be the
Mhm.
number of homeless people to blame that you need because there wouldn't be as many homeless people. But the fact that everything in Los Angeles has been zoned for single family housing because of baby boomers and their desires to raise property values,
Hmm.
one, we have a lot of homeless people who are at risk, who are in danger, and two, we have
Hmm.
fires like this because that single family zoning and those business zonings, a lot of the different types of setups that happen with permits and things like that, don't allow for controlled burnings, which would have been a good tool to have in the arsenal to manage a disaster like this.
Yeah. I saw a weird random statistic. They're saying right now we're starting to approach the United States specifically. The wealth inequality, like the wealth inequality that we have, how the gap of like how poor is getting much more poor compared to the super rich from this time of the French Revolution, right before the French Revolution.
I've
Because
seen,
you know how they're in that time, it's crazy, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, I've seen
So
comparisons to that period, the French Revolutionary period, and also the Gilded Age previously, one of the cycles in American history right before the Roaring Twenties. It was in the 1890s to 1910s.
yeah, that's what they're
Rockefeller,
like. The Rockefellers, yeah, yeah,
Carnegie, those guys
yeah,
when they became super wealthy and the average person was living a pretty rough life, especially in urban environments. So
yeah.
we're getting to that
So
situation, and we got a whole generation of Rockefellers and Carnegies who have all their money tied up in their housing. And when that housing
yeah,
goes, when a fire or a hurricane comes and takes it from them, oh, they're gonna get real vicious and real nasty, and we're gonna really see who they are. Which is why I think we
yeah,
need to start preparing now for a world in which the boomers go completely insane and want to cause harm to the younger generations. They want to use us. They want to be
yeah.
parasites and leech off us. We need to find a way to
Hmm.
make sure we are ready to burn that leech off before it can get too deeply attached and drain us of too much.
Again, the thing that got me interesting from the statistic I told you about the French Revolution, I'm like, it got me thinking. That was before the French Revolution because of how the wealth, big wealth inequality was. I'm like, do we believe that the United States will get to that point where like we'll be like, enough is enough? These rich fucks just screwing us over, specifically the boomers, and they're just gonna try to control the country, try like I don't know, some sort of American Revolution 2.0 or something like that.
Yeah, if we do get to
Because
that point,
I feel like it's gonna get to the point where like right now it's so stupid because the country is very polarized from two sides, and that's just a political belief system. But these dumbasses don't realize that the more you keep pushing, it becomes more dangerous because it's gonna end up some sort of civil war. But if people feel like if both sides of the spectrum feel like they're getting screwed over by the government to a point that they're like, okay, we can't deal with this anymore. Shit's getting way too more expensive because not inflation, but because these big corporations are price gouging, you know, or just the way of life gotten super expensive that the average individual cannot afford the necessities. I do believe there's going to be a point where like the people are going to try to rise up, and the people are going to win because in the end of the day, the people there's more regular folks than rich folks.
yeah.
So
If we do get to that point, I just have one thing to say to everybody out there. My guillotines have an age limit. If you want to get your head put in that, get your neck, get the clamps around it, you got to be 65 or older right now. All right, I'm not taking anybody younger. So, you have height limits on roller coasters. I have age limits on the guillotine. You got to be at least this old. Well, thank you guys for listening today. I hope you had a good time. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you liked our last little segment and you learned something interesting. As always, please like, subscribe, and comment. We really do appreciate it. It helps us out a lot. And turn on notifications if you can. I understand there have been some issues with notifications recently. Some of our subscribers have reached out to us. I'm working on it. I'm trying to get that resolved for you. I want you to know as soon as we go live and we start posting a video. If it starts working for you, let me know. If there's anything you do that allows it to pop up on your end, please let me know in the comments below. Any final thoughts, Ferris?
I think just I want to say thank you to everybody for like keeping us going and enjoying our content. Um, and I want to thank, last but not least, the man himself, the host, Chad. So I want to thank you, Chad, for all you have done and always including me.
Absolutely. I appreciate you showing up every week and helping us get some good content in. Your thoughts mean a lot, and glad to have you. Well, that's going to be it for today, guys. Hope you have a wonderful day. Goodbye.